Hello and welcome to this demonstration of the new Dash documentation platform. My name is Leon White. I'm known to many of you from the forum, Slack and Discord as Strophy. I initially started contributing to the Dash documentation around March 2017 and I've since been taken on as a contractor at Dash Core Group. My official job is to handle the documentation and wiki platforms, but I also spend a lot of time interacting with the community and providing basic technical support on Discord and the forum. I'm going to start a quick screen share at this point and walk you through all the various tools currently used to manage the Dash documentation. So Dash moved the majority of the documentation to a space on Atlassian's Confluence wiki platform several years ago. That's what we're looking at here. The intention there was to make it easy for the community to contribute to the documentation. And while that worked well for several years, our growing international community has caused us to re-examine this choice with a view to staying true to our open source philosophy. Atlassian is closed source and presented numerous obstacles when attempting to export content to a managed translation service. When I say managed here, what I mean is that the English language source text changes and then we can highlight the changes to the translators without needing them to retranslate an entire document each time. So it's sort of change management for translation. That means that we can keep versions of both the source text and translations and be up to date at all times. Other problems with this page is that it also tends to load a lot of scripts and serve very large pages, often about 4 or 5 megabytes when loading a page for the first time. That's necessary for functions that you see on the side here, calendars and question functions, but we've never actually used these. So if you click around a bit, like for example, if we go to this 8 steps page here, you can also see that the URL scheme on Atlassian results in very long and messy URLs. So after some time spent on the research phase, we made a decision to migrate all existing documentation to Read the Docs, which you can see here. Read the Docs is well loved in the open source community for providing a free, powerful, and easy to use documentation build and hosting system based on the open source Sphinx documentation system. You can see Sphinx here. This was originally created as a tool to manage the documentation for the Python programming language and processes content written in a language called restructured text into any output format, including HTML, PDF, ebooks, LaTeX, and even more. We can see the restructured text home site here. It's part of DocuTools. If you're familiar with Markdown, then restructured text is quite similar, but it has a lot of powerful features for linking and extending the documentation system. So, migration of to a new system is now complete, and the entire documentation is available as pure content on the DashPay GitHub, as you can see, dashpay/docs here. Anyone is welcome to open pull requests or create issues here, but often it's just easier to reach out direct to me on Discord if you're not familiar with GitHub for small suggestions. So, without too much further discussion, let's have a look at the new documentation. This is the landing page. It is hosted at docs.dash.org, as you can see at the URL here. It's a big change from the long and messy Atlassian URLs. While I was migrating the old content, I came across a lot of material that was really painfully out of date and tried to merge it together into a cohesive body of documentation that integrated all the hard work that's been done by multiple contributors over the years. The most visible result of this streamlining work is the table of contents on the side here. We've tried very hard here to allow Dash users of all levels to find the content they need as quickly as possible. This is clear in the first steps section here, or even on the front page. It assumes zero prior knowledge of cryptocurrencies or Dash in general. This is where people can go in the first step section here to learn what Dash is, what sets it apart from other cryptocurrencies, and where Dash is available. There's detailed instructions on how to buy it, a big collection of links and information, including links to all of the information in the rest of the Dash ecosystem, both community projects and core projects. Some of the most detailed documentation is here in the wallets section. It describes all the basic steps and processes for simple tasks like installing your first wallet. Here and up to the latest developments like web wallets down here, My Dash Wallet is featured, And of course, hands down, the most popular question that everybody asks, how to recover my wallet, or a Darkcoin wallet from 2014. There's a growing section here on how to earn and spend Dash, with prominent links to the amazing Discover Dash site maintained by Dash Force. And wherever possible, I've also integrated videos from Amanda B. Johnson's Dash School series and the Dash 101 series to help users follow along. It can be quite a scary process for first-time users installing their first wallet. The newest section of documentation is for merchants here. It covers detailed steps on how to begin accepting Dash as a merchant. Previously, we just had a very simple and unmaintained plugin written a long time ago by Core Team for WooCommerce, but now we have more sophisticated payment processes which are covered here that we can use right now in 2018. So the Getting Started page that we're looking now includes screenshots and detailed walkthroughs of how to begin accepting Dash using some of the world's most popular e-commerce solutions like WooCommerce. It guides merchants towards payment processes that implement instant send like GoCoin here. And there's also some basic information on administrative changes related to accepting Dash. And finally, some technical guides here for exchanges and major e-commerce websites with plenty of links to the APIs and SDKs that this sort of development requires. The most interesting link for me here actually is a link to the developer documentation, which is written by the Fez. It's an extremely detailed treatment of many aspects of Dash Core and the Dash protocol itself. It's documentation for developers. This is currently maintained separately from the documentation that I've been working on, but I work closely together with the Fez to coordinate what information belongs where. Going back to my documentation here, the network section down the bottom here includes a great deal of the oldest content from the old Confluence system, all completely updated for 2018. A lot of the governance section here was written by the famous Mukau Mu, and it still describes many systems that actually exist today. So when I was copying it over, I had to update all of it, and all of this was still written as if it didn't exist yet, like sites like Dash Central and Dash Vote Tracker. They were just simple wireframes, so I was able to update all of this and describe the way that the Dash ecosystem functions today. So it was fascinating to read through this part of Dash history and see how effectively the vision has been implemented in a way. Going down a bit more, we have the masternode documentation here, completely updated with all the latest best practices for using Dash masternode tool, hardware wallets. The mining section here has been updated with details on the latest ASIC miners. When we get to the analytics of our web traffic over here, this actually is one of the most popular pages in the documentation, which is interesting to me. And finally, we've got some links down here for developers and translators to help them get started, information on how to use Dash marketing material, and links to the new logo style guide, multiple versions of infographics, and finally at the bottom here, a basic legal treatment on how the law applies to Dash. You can see here many of these infographics and handouts I just talked about have actually already been translated by a fantastic team of volunteers, so anybody can get involved with that on Transifex. That's actually one of the main features of the documentation here. If you click the version button down the bottom here, you can see that there are a number of different language versions available. That works today. It's extremely simple to begin translating the documentation on Transifex, and then I can pull those translations back into the documentation here. So you can see we've just converted this entire page into Vietnamese, just like that. Read the Docs is designed to work together with Transifex, and Transifex is similar in a way to Read the Docs in that it's designed around open source communities and development methods. So if we look at Transifex here, you can see the different projects that Dash has already put on here for translation. If we zoom in on the documentation here, you can see that each page in the documentation is available as a resource here. Anybody can create an account with Transifex and begin contributing translations in their native language. Just go to transifex.com/dash. I regularly extract all translatable content from the documentation using another open source tool called gettext, and then I send or push that updated source documentation back to Transifex, which organizes it by page and language, and shows how much has been completed. So down here we can see the completion level for each of the pages. Once the work is done, the procedure is done in reverse, and all the translated content goes back to GitHub. Sphinx builds it, and it appears here in the live documentation in another language. You can switch languages as well just by changing the language code here. So we have VI for Vietnamese. Transifex is really easy to use, and we can always use help from the community there, but that's a topic for another video. The final thing I'd like to show you today is Google Analytics of our platform. You can see that we're getting around 2,500 views a week on the documentation. A lot of that's being forwarded over from the old documentation, where I've put these obsolete links which lead to the relevant page in the new documentation. But we're also picking up a lot from the Dash.org websites and some other websites related to mining, CoinMarketCap, things like that. You can see that most of the users are from the US and China, Germany, UK. And what interested me here was that there's actually a lot of mobile users. About a quarter of the users view the page on mobile, which is excellent because Atlassian used to require an app to render well on mobile, whereas now everything with Read the Docs renders perfectly on mobile. And then we can look at the most popular pages here, and as I mentioned before, mining is extremely popular, followed by basic introduction about features, how to buy Dash, and all about Dash. Okay, that completes my quick walkthrough of the Dash documentation. Thanks everyone for your time and attention. I find this is an often overlooked aspect of software development, but it's also very important for our users. I'm very open to feedback, constructive criticism or suggestions. Find me anytime under the name Strophy on Discord, Slack, or on the Dash forum. Cheers, and thanks for your time.